Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. Today we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 7. Now we started looking at the 10 commandments, and we know the 10 commandments are the foundation of the law, the instruction of God to Israel. Chapter 7 contains the first command. Now we saw the commandments yesterday began with the prologue, I am the Lord, I am your God, I brought you out of Egypt. And then the first command is quite simple. You shall have no other gods before me or besides me. You shall have no other gods. Now, we've already seen that this is the hallmark of faithfulness to the Lord. You will worship only the Lord. And so the first commandment states it clearly. You shall not have any other gods besides me. Now, the Israelites were used to the peoples around them worshiping other gods. They had just come out of slavery in Egypt, and the Egyptians worshiped many gods. They were what we call polytheistic. They had many gods they worshiped. Israel had seen that. Also, the land of Canaan they are about to possess worships other gods. One of the chief gods of the Canaanites would be Baal. And throughout the history of Israel in the Old Testament, there was that constant temptation to be like the other peoples and to worship their gods. They would time after time fall especially into the worship of Baal, who was one of the chief gods of the Canaanites. So this was a real temptation for the Israelites. And that's why the commandment is first, and that's why it is so clear. The Lord says, you must be absolutely faithful to me. You shall have no other gods. I can't be one among many. I can't be just one of your objects of worship. You must worship only me. I am the Lord. I alone am your God. You shall worship no other. And now, unfortunately, the temptation to worship other gods is still prevalent today. Just as it was for the Israelites, the people of God are tempted to worship other gods. Now, sometimes those other gods come in different forms. We may worship pursuits in our life, or maybe tempted to worship other goals or other causes or other allegiances. But anything or anyone that demands our ultimate allegiance is trying to be a god in our life. Hear that carefully. Anything or anyone that demands ultimate allegiance of our lives is trying to be a god for us. Whether it be a cause or a project or a goal or an objective or a friendship or anything, anyone or anything that demands our ultimate allegiance is trying to be a god to our lives. And the Lord makes it clear, my people shall have no other gods. I alone am the Lord. That's what God says. I alone am the one who saved you. I am the one who brought you out of slavery to sin and redeemed you. You shall worship only me. And so just as it was for the ancient Israelites, so it is today for the people of God, we who are Christians. The ultimate allegiance of our life is to the Lord through faith in Jesus Christ, his Son. We shall have no other gods. Nothing else. No one else can claim the ultimate allegiance of our life. Nor the loyalty can come before God. Only he is God. You shall have, the Lord says, no other gods before me. That's where we start, and that is always the foundation stone. Now tomorrow, we're going to look at the second commandment, which is similar to the first. The second commandment has to do with the making of idols. You shall not make an idol. You shall not create an image to worship. And when we first read these commands, we kind of think, well, that's the same command. And they are similar, but there's some slight differences. But we'll go into detail on that tomorrow when we look at the prohibition against idolatry. It's similar to the first commandment, but slightly different. We'll see that tomorrow. But for now, the first commandment is quite clear. You shall worship only the Lord. You shall have no other gods before me. That has always been the hallmark of God's people. That is the foundation stone of biblical religion. There are no other gods. We worship only the Lord. He alone is our God. Hope you'll join us tomorrow as we continue our 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. And tomorrow we'll be looking, of course, at the second commandment.